RFK Jr. You said some positive things for a while about RFK Jr. And I think you said you would even consider voting for him, given the slate of people. This was at the time when Biden was still in. What do you think about him? What do you think about RFK Jr. as a candidate, as a person? He's been on the show, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So he was on our show. People love that interview. You could check it out anytime.
Great.
Right. And why do people love it, whether they're right or left? Because we're fair. We actually ask him about his policy positions. He explained them. I challenge him, and then he explains, and we give him a fair hearing. But I knew Bobby a little bit before he ran, when he was an environmental lawyer, right? And his legal work is excellent. And he's been on the right side of most of the issues for most of his life. So, I like him on that. 2, on his wildlife, the dead bear and the worms and all that stuff, right? So there's 2 important lessons you should get out of that. Well, one's just about Bobby, but the other one's a general one that's really important for you to know, no matter what you think of Bobby Kennedy. On the personal front, I have a friend that's very similar to him. In fact, he's one of my best friends. And I know why. This is my theory on why Bobby and my friend led a wild life. Both of their dads died young. When my friend's dad died, he was 18 and his dad died in his arms. And he has a motto: what is lived cannot be unlived. So if I had a great time and I thought it was hilarious to dump a dead bear at Central Park, then I lived it and I had a great time and nothing you could do about it. Okay. And sometimes that'll get you in trouble. And sometimes you'll have a fantastic time. Right. And obviously, Bobby's dad was killed when he was young. And maybe that got into his head of like, you better live strong and live an interesting life. And so I don't begrudge him that. Even if I begrudge some of the things that he did in that life, I get why he did it. So I don't hate him like other people hate him for some of those personal stuff, right? So, and I like him for all the things that he did positive, holding, fossil fuel companies accountable, protecting communities that had poison dumped into their rivers, et cetera, right? So the thing that affects everybody is when he gets, like, corporate media smeared the hell out of him and they didn't allow him to speak, and then they did the needle in a haystack trick. So whenever it's an insider, they find the best parts of their lives and then they amplify it. So Joe Biden is average Joe from Scranton. Motherfucker's been in D.C. for the last 52 years. You think we don't have eyes and ears? Okay. Like, average Joe from Scranton. Who are you kidding? So there's a guy named Fred Thompson who's an actor, and he was a senator from Tennessee later. And he had this great little trick that he would do. Is a red pickup truck that he would campaign with, right? So he looks like a regular Joe, right? But he's a millionaire actor. But here's the funny part. He would drive to the red pickup truck in a limo. And he would drive back from the campaign event in a limo. But the press never reported the limo. They only reported him in the red pickup truck as if that's what he drives. See, that's the theater of politics. Why? Because Fred Thompson was a corporate Republican. So they loved him. So they go, yeah, sure. Yeah, red pickup truck. Oh, good old Fred Thompson, right? So, but if you're an outsider and they don't like you, then they're going to look at the haystack of your life and they're going to try to find needles. So they've done this to Trump. They've done this to Bernie. They've done this to Bobby Kennedy Jr. And with Bobby, they're like, ooh, there's some juicy needles in here. Okay. So they find those and they go, you see this? The only thing you should know about Bobby Kennedy Jr. is that he found a dead bear and put it in Central Park. Wait. I found another one. The other thing you should know about Bobby is that he once said in a divorce deposition that he had a brain worm that ate. By the way, it turns out that affects millions of people and it's not that big a deal, right? But look, he is a radical. This defines him completely. The spectacular case of that actually happened to me. So I ran for Congress in 2020, and the New York Times, LA Times, CNN, they all butchered me with needles. Okay. So they said, his long history of making anti-Muslim jokes. Well, first of all, they didn't even say jokes. They said anti-Muslim rhetoric. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I'm Muslim. I mean, I'm an atheist, but I grew up Muslim. My family's Muslim. My background's Muslim. You don't think that's relevant in the story? And they did it based on one joke I told about. And they say, oh, also, of course, they say that I'm anti-Semitic. You start with that. That's just baked in for everyone, right? So they said, I had made a joke about how Orthodox Jews and Muslims, they think that getting into heaven is a little bit of a fashion contest. Okay. So the Orthodox Jews go in there with a Russian coat from the 1800s and the giant Russian hat. The Muslims go in with their robe and the skull cap and stuff. And God's looking around going, no. Ooh, nice outfit. Come on in. Right. Like, do you really think the creator of the universe gives a damn what you wear? Okay. So the New York Times took that and said, long history of being anti-Semitic and anti-Muslim.
Right.
Okay. So there's this, this is a famous one, relatively famous. I did a joke about bestiality like
Nice.
a dozen years ago.
Very nice.
So I start out the joke nice and dry, and I go, look, is the horse going to object if he's the one getting pleasure? Now, Anna's my co-host. She's younger at that time, and she's like, that seems like a bad idea, Jake. I'm like, of course it's a bad idea. Okay. But I'm being dry, but some people are laughing in the studio and stuff. And then I say, if I was emperor of the world, I would make that legal. And they cut the tape. Mm-hmm. If you watch the rest of the tape, I say, now, would the horse object? No. But they cut the tape. So the New York Times, originally a right winger did that, and then a establishment troll in that primary started putting out those tapes to everyone. Jake Tapper retweeted it. Didn't look to see if it's edited or not edited. The New York Times implied that bestiality was part of my agenda. Jesus
Please
Christ.
tell me that's part of your Wikipedia. That the bestiality thing is part of your.
I don't know. But guys, so in those stories, I'm not important, and even Bobby Kennedy Jr. is not important. What it reveals about the media is what's important. So they're going to find those needles, and even if they don't have the needles, you know what? We'll cut the tape before your joke's punchline, right? So we'll just run it and we'll lie about you. Who cares, right? And so, they also said that I had David Duke on to share his anti-Semitic point of view. If you watch the interview, I told David Duke, you're an anti-Semite, you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're an idiot, right? It was the toughest interview he's probably ever had in his life. And other journalists got mad at that part. And they were like, no, guys, you're just flat out lying. Like, I watched the interview. Did any of you watch the interview? He takes the guy's head off, right? And so the New York Times issued a correction on that one. So they're like, okay, fine. He was being sarcastic when he said, sure, you're not racist, Dave. Okay.
Well, it's one of the sources of hope to all this is there's a lot of independent media now, but mainstream media has a lot of power still. It carries a lot of power. Do you think they're going to die eventually?
Yeah, definitely. So two things about that are super important. First of all, this is why I tell people to have hope. I don't believe in false hope, right? So if you think Kamala Harris is your knight in shining armor, she's going to come in, she's going to get money out of politics, she's going to ignore the donors, that's false hope. That's crazy talk, right? So why am I in favor of Kamala Harris? I'm going to live to fight another day. I'm worried that Trump's going to end the whole thing, and then we're not going to have an opportunity to actually get a populist win, right? So, and I'm encouraged by some of the things she's doing, and maybe she does even 25% of her agenda, but I'm not going to give you false hope that she's your savior, right? But I believe massively in hope. And number one, because it's true to the point that we were talking about earlier, Lex, and how last 200 years have been choppy, but overall fantastic. Terrible things have happened in that time period, some of the worst things that have ever happened in history, but overall life expectancy is higher, everything is, incomes are higher, health is better, etc., right? So hope is not misplaced, it's real, it's empirical, okay? So now we talked about how you could get money out of politics and that's a legitimate hope, but media is another place where we have huge hope. So of all the corporate robots, the most important robot is media. So when mainstream media has you hooked in at the back of your neck, you're going to believe all these fairy tales about how politicians are nice people and they're trying to do the right thing and donor money doesn't have any influence on them, right? So once you unplug from the matrix, well, then you begin to see, oh, yeah, hey, look, he took the donor money, did what the donors wanted. He took the donor money, did what the donors want, 98% of the time, right? So then you see clearly. So now what's happening at large? Mainstream media is losing their power. And now online media is swarming.